Content warning. This video deals with themes of suicide. We open to some terrible dubbing of an extra, so I'm already concerned. Neelix is doing the rounds, and Kim compliments him on some coffee, though I imagine Voyager's expectations are low on that front, given one of his previous brews hospitalized Paris. Chakotay arrives and introduces the term proto-matter to the episode. Apparently Voyager has found some inside a bit of space fog, and Neelix is the resident expert on it, so he's being drafted for an away mission later. Looks like we're getting a Neelix episode, as he's also given a chat with Seven over expanding her appreciation of food. Unlike last time, this sampling of his culinary skills doesn't result in violence. Ensign Mum, formerly Ensign Pregnant, calls for his help too. Her daughter, who we learn is now called Naomi, is unable to sleep. She wants him to pop over, presumably realizing that his company is a powerful sedative. To Ensign Mum's quarters, where we discover that Voyager kids grow up quick, especially the half-Qatarian ones. By my calculation, she's not even 2 yet, but has already managed to learn both how to speak and that she can give orders to Neelix. Perhaps being from a different reality has increased her metabolism, though if that's true, Kim should be affected by the same issue, yet Naomi has already shown more character growth than him. After a thorough check, Naomi is finally satisfied that there are no monsters on Voyager, except for the murderer in the captain's chair. Naomi being scared to sleep gives Neelix a chance to share some backstory, saying he finds comfort in a Talaxian custom. They believe in a place called the Great Forest, where everybody is reunited with their loved ones. A leafy afterlife sounds more appealing than clouds to me, an opinion apparently shared by Naomi, who settles down as a result. Ensign Mum thanks him as he leaves. We're in the cargo bay as Neelix is looking for a storage container of his. After a little chat with Seven, who he interrupts regenerating because she still lives in the cargo bay for some reason, he finds it, telling us it'll be suitable for that proto-matter we're going to grab. As an aside, the Starfleet tendency to not stow its cargo properly has always bothered me. Strapping shit down is something we figured out hundreds of years ago on boats, and those didn't have to deal with a lack of gravity if there was a technical problem. Anywho, canister in hand, Neelix is finally off for his away mission. We fly inside the space fog and teleport some of it into the container while Neelix is holding it, which doesn't seem particularly safe to me, but I guess it's only Neelix. Danger comes from a more unexpected route though, as our poking has pissed off the space fog. It fires out some lightning, a bolt of which manages to pass through both shields and matter, aiming straight for Neelix. He's knocked to the floor as Paris comes to check on him while we try to scarp her. Medical scans reveal good news. He's dead. Voyager's received a distress call from the shuttle, but doesn't fancy going in. Not a problem though, as we immediately find them, rendering this whole scene moot. In the sick bay, we're standing solemnly around a still dead Neelix. The doc asks them what they want to do with his body, and I think it's disappointing that nobody offers to grok him in his fullness. It's what he would have wanted. Instead, Janeway wants to follow Talaxian customs, which means mourning him for a full week. Whilst excessive, I will admit he's a lot easier to be around now. Bugger all that though, because Seven turns up and says she can save him. Borg minibots can resuscitate corpses, because of course they can. I guess Seven didn't like the crew member who died a few episodes ago enough to suggest it for her. The thing is, Neelix has been gone for 18 hours. Nobody's been brought back after that long, so I presume we'll be heading into existential crisis territory when he returns. On the plus side, this might give Ethan Phillips a chance to portray something other than synthetic chair, and I've generally enjoyed it when he has, so let's see where this is going. Janeway agrees and orders the doctor to assist in any way he can. Curiously, the doc seems opposed to this procedure, a stance that feels at odds with his Hippocratic oath, but maybe he wasn't programmed for necromancy. The attempt begins, and we do some green lightning to Neelix's face. Brain activity slowly restarts, much to the doctor's surprise. Cells regenerate, and he takes a breath. While Seven and the doc fiddle with the console, Neelix sits up and asks what's happening. I guess we've got a zombie now. Neelix is told that he was dead, but now isn't. At least, most of him isn't. The Borg minibots will need to be topped up with injections while we make sure his organs can adapt to not being dead anymore. He's released to his quarters where he can have his inevitable crisis of faith in private. We next see him walking through the corridors with Janeway, asking how the proto-matter collection went and making sure we can still have the party they were planning for the first night of Prixin, a Talaxian holiday to celebrate family. It's a mask, of course, that thin veneer of joviality he wears, and it falls away when he returns to his quarters. In front of a sculpture of a tree, presumably a representation of his belief in forest heaven, he asks Elixir, his dead sister, why she wasn't there. Chakotay's checking up on work to make sure that lightning balls up we had in the space fog doesn't happen again if we give it another go. He thinks it wise to test things first, so takes a trip to the holodeck. He's joined on the way by Neelix, who's had quite enough of taking things easy and wants to help. Planning to prevent the problem that literally killed him seems preferable to introspection, so he accompanies Chakotay. Except it's not a test of the new plan, it's a review of the old one. Tangentially, as I presume this is going to be where Neelix finally cracks, I find the choice of Chakotay odd. He's the member of the cast most commonly depicted as spiritual, yet we're supposed to believe he wouldn't see any potential issues here. It's a doubly curious choice when we could have used Seven, who we just watched have a conversation with Tuvok about not understanding the importance placed on death. If we'd used her for this, and slotted that chat in after where I presume this scene is going, it would have flowed far more smoothly. But, again, I digress. The simulation runs and holographic Neelix does his impression of a lightning rod. Real Neelix pauses the review and goes to look at his body. Chakotay comes to join him, and as Neelix begins to recount that none of his beliefs came true when he died, no trees, no family, Chakotay realizes he's fucked up. Too late now, though, so he lets it run, trying to argue that maybe he wasn't gone for long enough for the process to begin. It's an unconvincing suggestion, of course, and Neelix says as much. Dead for 18 hours without being collected? It's supposed to be an afterlife, not the NHS after 13 years of conservative government. It's time for the start of that Talaxian holiday, and we're having the party Neelix wanted. He's even replicated a new jacket. Either that or he's robbed a clown. Tuvok, at Neelix's earlier request, gives the opening speech, one recognizing the importance of family. You know, those things Neelix doesn't have anymore because they're all dead, and he'll now never see again because he knows forest heaven is a lie. Surprisingly, it's Paris that tries to turn things around, referring to Neelix as a member of Voyager's family and leading the toast to him. Neelix looks out across the warm, welcoming faces of those who've accepted him, and struggles to continue. But he manages to bite it back just as he always has, and tries to join the party instead. Chakotay takes the chance to check on Neelix after his moment of honesty in the holodeck. Neelix apologizes for his actions, saying that it's just because he's adapting to what happened, while uttering one of the oldest and easiest lies in existence. I'm fine. Seven's just standing there like a lemon, so Janeway suggests that she get involved and contribute to conversations. As an aside, I like to think she knew precisely how this was going to turn out. Seven's contribution to the conversation between the Doc and Ensign Mum is to tell them about Borg maturation chambers, vats that children are stored in until they're physically useful. Ensign Mum finds a reason to be elsewhere and chooses Neelix. After a bit of a fright, she tells him that Naomi has been asking after him, saying that he's the only one she trusts to tuck her in and asking if he'll pop by later. Seizing on the combination of excuse to leave the party and chance to feel useful, Neelix decides to go now. We're making sure Naomi's bedroom is safe again. Frankly, I don't know why she's worried. Any monsters in the room would clearly be scared off by Neelix's jacket. Neelix plays along with Naomi's joke, a hidden stuffed toy in the bed, and his mood is improved. Maybe he can get through this, after all. She wants a story before she goes to sleep, though, and hey, why don't you tell me about forest heaven again? He tries to avoid it, saying it's just a silly story, but she's insistent. He tells her about it again, voice toneless, conviction gone, and we heap points on Ethan Phillips's performance. Neelix is tidying up after the party. Any chance to wallow in his misery is spoiled when Seven arrives, saying she needs to scan him for the doctor to know how many Borg mini-bots he'll need next time. But he's done. This is the last straw. He shouts about not wanting this, that she had no right to bring him back, until his body stops him. It's decided he's being an ungrateful bastard and has chosen to necrotize again. Off to sickbay we go. Tangentially, this final straw would have made even more sense if Seven had been the one to review the shuttle logs with him, as I suggested earlier. Turns out his body has started rejecting the Borg mini-bots, so we fiddled with them to stop it. For now, anyway, it might need doing again in the future, so we give Neelix something to monitor him. While there, he asks to see Chakotay. Neelix has heard about Chakotay's vision quests, the ones that let Janeway meet Admiral Disco Ball Gesundheit Lavender Ribcage Detroit Fridge Magnet Advanced Hero Quest Mumbles, her spirit animal. He thinks this level of spiritual introspection might help him attain an understanding of what's happening to him, something Chakotay warns him against considering as a quick fix. Neelix immediately says he understands, which is a sure sign that he doesn't, and Chakotay agrees. We're making Neelix his own medicine bundle, and he brings along a whatever this thing is, made by his dead sister, Elixir. He also adds a flower from the garden Kez used to tend before she turned into a Vorlon, and that sculpture of a tree. Neelix puts his fingers on Chakotay's techno-psychedelic and starts tripping balls. He lands in the party that he organised, only this time his sister's there too. Briefly, anyway, as he's prevented from reaching her and she leaves. He follows and finds himself in Forest Heaven, where he can finally talk to her. He asks her why, when he died, she wasn't there, and the answer is simple. Because all of this is bullshit. None of it exists, and the Forest Heaven is just a lie to fend off the fear of death. I'll be honest with you folks, I didn't come into this episode expecting it to piss all over the very concept of organised religion, but it's a pretty fucking bold play, so we'll give it some points. Elixir tells him there's no purpose to existing and, perhaps to prove her point, disintegrates. The Forest Heaven switches to menacing ultraviolet, and Corpse Neelix tells Tripping Balls Neelix that they never should have brought him back. He's told that being here is a mistake and he knows what he needs to do by all the main characters on the show, possibly so the ones we haven't seen yet earn their fee, and a screaming Neelix wakes up. Neelix visits Astrometrics to C7. He's here to apologise for his behaviour, and he seems in much better spirits than before. As someone who's done a little reading on the topic of suicide, I recognise this red flag. He tells Seven that she's welcome here, wanted, and that she'll find a home among the crew. His affairs in order with her, he leaves. In the mess hall, Neelix is tidying up, making sure things are as they should be. Chakotay arrives to find out why he cancelled his arrangement for more vision quests, telling him that it's part of a process, not a single event. Neelix says it worked, that he saw the Forest Heaven and his sister. He's found peace. But Chakotay insists, explaining that it's not always as simple as it seems, that anything he saw needs to be examined, and orders Neelix to come to his quarters when he finishes his shift. He leaves, not realising that he's just set a time limit. Neelix waits until he's gone before taking a last look around the mess hall, turning off the lights as he departs. In his quarters, he records farewell messages for the crew. Setting them to be delivered to Janeway an hour from now, he makes his way to a teleporter room. On the bridge, a warning alerts Kim of an unauthorized attempt to teleport. He tells Janeway that it's Neelix and he's trying to return to the nebula. Janeway calls him and orders him to stop while Chakotay goes down there to make sure. There's a standoff as Chakotay tries to convince Neelix to stop, using the argument that he's family and needed here. Ensign Mum, after receiving no answer to a call, visits personally and, unaware of the situation, tells him Naomi is asking for him. Chakotay uses this as further evidence, and Neelix decides to stop. In Naomi's bedroom, Neelix is putting her to bed. She says her mum told her that Neelix had been sick, but Neelix reassures her that he's better now. Naomi asks him if a monster had got him, and he agrees before saying he'd chased it off. He leaves her to sleep and dream of trees as we fly away. I've said before that the best examples of Neelix are when he's not normal Neelix. The Neelix we regularly see is amiable but artificial. It's often felt like a plastic joy, the same level of warmth and conviction as a brochure from a company that claims to be passionate about whatever they do, even if it's make clothes hangers or some shit. The real Neelix isn't smiles and jovial bonhomie. The real Neelix is a mess, and we learn here that this patchwork of trauma and loss is taped together by the promise of a reunion in the afterlife. When that promise is taken from him, the whole thing starts to loosen and fall apart. Of particular note to me in this one is the interaction with Seven after his vision quest. I noted then that his behaviour was a red flag. Friends and family of people who've ended their own lives have often noticed an improvement in mood before their death. In reality, this improvement is from the relief in having decided the removal of uncertainty. Somebody on the writing team seems to have done their homework. On some parts anyway, as the message at the end is one I take issue with. It essentially places the onus on Neelix to continue living for others that they'd be harmed by his loss. Such guilt can make the burden held even greater, and it's disappointing that an otherwise well-considered episode would misstep in such a way. But maybe I'm asking for too much. For a show that didn't even bother to check if their Native American expert was a Native American, this level of knowledge is high tier, and it's paired with an excellent performance. I regularly piss on the character of Neelix, as I do with Paris, but that shouldn't be mistaken as a dislike for the actors. Again, as with every other episode where Neelix is more than simple comedy relief, Ethan Phillips shows that he's good at his job when he's given something to work with. Even with the shaky end, he puts in the effort here, and it shows. Such a difficult topic deserves it. End of episode. Yeah, I know this is the bit where Space Dog is supposed to come on, but it occurs to me that I've never actually thanked my patrons properly, so here goes. Thank you to Admiral Lucas Heil, Captain Allen 47, Captain RT, Commander British Cynic, Commander Robin Castles, Commander Tara Polan, Commander Billy T. Riker and the Jammin' Logicians, check us out on Spotify, Commander Anthony Adams, Commander Gordon Hall, Lieutenant Gnome Pickles, Lieutenant Harry Belafonte, Lieutenant Simon Turner, Lieutenant Tim Wildman, Lieutenant Red Spike 226, Lieutenant Pedro Cortez, Lieutenant Faildray, Lieutenant Binty McFrazzles, Lieutenant Isla Kingdom, Lieutenant Bradford, Lieutenant Lilac, Lieutenant Matt F., Lieutenant Alton Garcia, Lieutenant Adam Wetstein, Lieutenant Stephen Gibson, Lieutenant Arazil, Lieutenant Henchman 21, Lieutenant Thundermoose, Ensign Bishop Firth, Ensign NSV, Ensign Alex McEwen, Ensign Charles Jun, Ensign Jesse Shearer, Ensign Piton PC, Ensign Blue Fox, Ensign Jacob Blatt, Ensign Cleanar1J, Ensign Captain Picard. The foolishness on our channel is made a lot easier to do by the support of those above. If you've enjoyed it, this is the crew you should thank.